Yeah. Yeah, it was one on. Doing good. It's like it needs.
Just, right, I was like, it's attached, is that gonna, I think that's too big. Well, yeah, I was gonna say, maybe if we. It's so close. Something I- Let's see. Oh, I think so.
As long as there's no earthquake or.
Right. Of course, I can't see if anybody wants to join, but.
Oh, I saw you.
I will not be able to speak if there is anybody trying to come in. I will not be able to speak if anybody wants to ask a question. But they can see us. Right, it'll be on that. Wow. Try to flip it again, but. All right. All right. Excuse James Harrison.
Here.
Okay, Mark Vila,
Here.
Alan Hurd,
Here.
Ray Dodson,
Here.
Todd Wolf.
Here.
Karen Ferrara, here. Teresa said she's gonna try to join on that, so I may have to try to see if she's there. Mark Pullman.
Here.
Emery Wilson. Here. Yeah, Councilmember Mike Branstetter.
No.
We have Assistant Fire Chief Scott Adams.
Here.
And I know that Chief Smith is here, and he will be in any minute, I'm sure. And we do not have anybody from youth council, so I think that's it. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We have our new council member here. I'm sorry, what was your name again?
Preston Warren-Sala.
Preston Lawrence. I want to make this.
That's the Councilman Translator for remaining.
Okay.
You should all know that it's like an interview, they're all being interviewed to see whether or not he wants to. Choose to become your engaged.
I think it's the other way around. I feel like I'm being interviewed.
No, I think it's really the other way around.
We never got a run in peaceful fight.
That's why he's instituting.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Has everyone had a chance to look at the minutes?
Move the minutes be accepted as presented.
All those in favor? Aye. Minutes are approved. And do we have any public comment? Excuse me.
None.
Public comment, oh, I'm just here listening to the employee meeting.
Okay.
Alan, I'm sorry, I don't have my hearing aids coming. Oh, then I'll wait until the next meeting. No, because I'm, and I see you got neighborhood association, so there's a way to help it.
City council liaison comments, Councilmember Branstetter.
Well, obviously, I'm glad that Councilmember Marcella is joining us here. We didn't really finalize all of the liaison role. In January, but we were short some, but so making those visits to the various committees to see what the was elected in the way on to. And we're sort of letting it make that choice. So we had and I mean, just compliment one of the. I think when we met, a couple months ago, we reported that we were working through the path, a couple of work whoever related to homes and drug use, and that the people did go ahead and pass the to be able to not only do that goal dealing with issues around homes and issues around the police department and municipal court, the schools to address the fill voids that don't seem to be met by actions at the state level, where these sorts of things were even have and gone away. So essentially the ordinance regarding drug use is really designed the way to replace what the city is allowed to do. The city is not allowed to pass an ordinance about drug possession because only the state can pass according to the right of possession. That and the current status of that was that drug possession was in the situation like where you had to refer a person a couple of times before you could even refer them to the court to be able to go and do that, to be able to go to help, but there were no real systems set up to track had a person been referred to constantly and had done anything to be able to go and do that. And there was no database set up to be able to look to see if the police in Faircrest had to deal with the same person that we dealt with. So Tacoma, essentially, you got 3 strikes in every jurisdiction, and then be able to go and do that. So, doing what we can, look at open drug possession before that is done. So that is something that is actually something that you can put in front of a judge to be able to go into that. And that will sort of document your situation, as well as keeping the idea that encouraging you to do something wrong to solve a problem that you have, but also to deal with it. There is some legislation still pending that might or might not have in some form or another. In the legislative session at the state level regarding reestablishing some more clearly supportable state statutes around that. We'll have to wait and see what the next 3 weeks of the legislative session does for that. The second ordinance that we passed was very much in response to concerns from the community and particularly the business community regarding prevalence of homelessness or the belongings of persons experiencing homelessness being cash. Cash data, right, and we're not very huge the public property. And one of the things that we had is that we had very usable trespass ordinances that private property owners could get enforcement action regarding trespass action upon people who are on their property, but public entities didn't have that ability because of the way that the law was structured. So this was an ordinance that was particularly that was looking to say that if we have available shelter locations for refer you to and provide you transportation to within 15 miles of the Lakewood City Hall. That then you know, and you're camping out, sleeping or something on a place. We can require you to make you accept that shelter, or as an alternative, you could be arrested and charged with a violation of the ordinance. Again, the main thrust is that most of the shelter facilities that are existing in Pierce County have a linkage to offering people help to be able to go and do that. Council's role in passing these two ordinances was really to provide, like, the police department support tools to be able to use to address problems that they would avoid. The council is really not into procedures and things to do that, and most ordinances essentially allow the police and the process environment to determine the policies and procedures to go about implementing. And they're both essentially ones that are effective about May 1st. Couple of days before, and 30 days from the public taking the new thing. So we have to go and do that. So we will look to see whether or not there is a hopeful positive impact on I'm thinking community both for people who are engaged in using drugs and experiencing homelessness and for the community at large. And I take that copy of the ordinance you provided to you, so I'd be glad to answer any questions that just relating to why did the ordinance say what it does or how did it come about. The council is not the role of setting procedures for enforcing on that. The chief and the police department I guess the only other thing that I'll report on is that we've been monitoring in Olympia how some of the statutes there might be modified, particularly when the interest is the one that has to do with the guidance around police pursuit. That's a bill that is moved through the state senate in one form and then in a slightly different form through the House of Representatives, and it's not really clear exactly what the final thing was, because every time it gets up for discussion, whatever committee there are, folks from a variety of perspectives that want to propose amendments. And I think so, by the time it's probably next time, we'll know what the legislature is, that we go ahead and the way that we do that. So, I sent you that by report.
I have a question, Clover Creek Crossing, that seemed to drop from the list of tasks that we had had before. Was that just taken off, or?
No, the sidewalk on the Clover Creek crossing, fixing that problem. That is still an active project with Sound Transit funding. And they have, and so they are in a funding cycle with two things that are related actually to the sound station. They haven't actually published the year exactly what they're going to do, but there are projects in Springbrook neighborhood, some projects close to the station, but 112th Street and that now granted is committed to funding that, but because it's there, the exact timeline and the years is not listed. So I would tell you that 2 to 4 years out. Okay, I would, who's going to pay for it and what it's going to look like is being done. The city council is looking to try to attend to that project, improvements for pedestrian safety along the entire roadway that ends up there and goes all the way over to Diane. And part to be able to go and do that, then the one end of it is going to be done. Not have to improve thing over there, and that is the busiest street through that neighborhood. So we're looking to program that as sometime and next.
So there's no way that can get some type of priority, just one side, a sidewalk on one side of the street? Because right now, anyone coming through this handy, and there's no wheelchair or anything else, they have to travel down the middle of the street on either side in order to get across these tracks. No other way, it's gravel on both sides.
I don't know if there's a way, okay, but I can certainly get that. Sit down and transit to be able to do that and have an answer for certainly by the same time.
And just as an aside, when we first presented this, the other potential, because there was one sidewalk that was operational across Thorn Lane. They have since totally taken that out when they removed the bridge and put the overpass to Thorn Lane. So they tore up a perfectly good sidewalk that they had built a new one. And now it just doesn't exist. All that material was wasted pretty much, if you want to say that. Because you go across the overpass, hit the traffic circle, and then you go down around it. So,
And the bridge is in, yeah, and that's the State Department of Transportation design. Impact.
just want to make note of that. Because it's something we've been talking about for 3 years.
I have a question, just a clarification. They talk about wetlands in the homeless thing. And it sounds like to me, if a wetland is created by construction or some kind of change that's fair game to camp on. I don't know.
And I will tell you that there is in the ordinance about campaign. The idea is that one of the things that regional is campers. Who were along rivers and lakes and that, and there were some resultant pollution problems. So that was included in our ordinance, as something that is been done in my ordinance in some other cities. And that there's our public interest in terms of being able to go and do that, that they were. There's that was interesting in that that is probably the section that the city council had the most discussions about, because there was a lot of wetland preservation and wetland don't necessarily follow property lines, so they're the same wetland that is stream, both lake corridor, that it's an intermixed piece of private public property that you have to go and do that. And ultimately, we came out to where it's only the water and wetlands and areas that are on public property that are impacted by the ordinance. We want to keep the scope on public property. But they are an environmental area that men having been experiencing so a small amount in Lakewood, but in other areas around the region, some very specific impacts of encampments by groups of homeless people, where there are no facilities for them to be able to arrest and be able to know and do that. And so the idea was that section of the ordinance to protect them.
Along that, I don't know if you can answer this, but Fleck Creek from the Lakewood Drive bridge to the cemetery there, with the city pump station, city of Tacoma pump station. Apparently that wetland is controlled by the city of Tacoma. So is this ordinance cover that area? I never could quite understand, because that's in the city limits, but
That the flat wetland that eventually is partially on the cemetery. The other thing that actually has it's connected in ways to the large city of Tacoma stormwater holding facility there on 80th Street that actually gets this water that comes out of the Ward Way. Where it's a department that comes from. What is coming off of I-5 for several miles into the track to be able to go and do that. So that within the city, there are some, and then there are some areas where the city has easements or agreements with property owners where we've got things to do that. But with respect specifically to the ordinance, those areas that are under the wetlands that are under public ownership that are within the city limits are covered by the ordinance as public property. They aren't covered in the section of the ordinance that deals with water in that, because Flat Creek doesn't have enough water running through it to get officially qualified as a state water thing. Being able to go and do that, so it doesn't. Well, it's a wetland, it doesn't qualify as water to the state that the shoreline management program covers and chronic management covers as reference. specific items with in the ordinance. But it is, but to the extent that much of it is public property of one entity or another, it's within the city limits and it's under public ownership, then they camping ordinance.
What's magic about 15 miles? Or 10 miles, 12 miles, why 15?
Magic. Um, We don't have a lot of right in the city shelter providers. That the original draft of the ordinance said 30 miles. So what the magic thing about 15 is it's half a 30. But that it captures then about 17 or 18 different shelter options that might have space that are there. And we needed to do that. The ordinance specifies that the city wishes to offer a person the option to essentially, you have to, we will give a shelter, or if you refuse a shelter, you could be arrested. That contingent on that offer is the possibility of right person transportation to do that. 15 miles is more reasonable to be able to go and do that. And the other thing is 15 miles is generally keeps us within the Pierce Transit service area. So we wouldn't be taking a person to a shelter that's outside of the Pierce Transit service area, so that the next morning they're put somewhere to be able to go and do that. The number 15 wasn't magic, other than that, as with 30 wasn't going to work well. 15 was half of 30. You know, we can all agree on that.
I don't have enough shelters, so you're not accused of limiting their availability.
Yeah, no, it is always, on any given day, not every shelter has this. Okay, and that is going to be an element that it can only be, that ordinance can only be enforced. If we are dealing with a person and we're actually able to offer them shelter. And then some shelters shelter families, other shelters. So shelters have all have their own parameters of who they serve. But at 15 miles gets us to a representative group of shelters that would serve nearly anyone. Subject to availability.
My comment is on ordinance 783, the occupation of public property. It's really housekeeping. Obviously, this was a template with some shoreline, because city of Shoreline is referenced throughout there. We didn't catch all of that when we did a cut and paste. So again, this housekeeping.
I will take that. I will take a look at it to see whether the final topic. I know that there were some. Go over there, and one of those things where it was intended that there were references to shoreline, because meaning shoreline was out of capital F.
Oh.
They were intended to be shoreline like along creeks, so we don't have to do that.
Everyone has
So it may well be that the shoreline that's there with the capital S is the small S. And
capitalize lakes, rivers, waterways, streams, and everything, and shoreline, so.
Well, on the first notation of it, the shoreline environment, both capitalized. I took that to mean that everything following that shoreline is to be capital, we can put it in writing. But they probably want to clarify it, so nobody has a guess.
Yeah, that is, the shoreline environment is a reference to the shoreline management program, which is set of state rule, city rules that apply to seven of the lakes and three streams.
If I'm living underneath the bridge and the off the jail or housing. So I go, and next morning I wake up and I get on First Transit and I go to another camp someplace. Then they run across me again, then do I go to jail? I mean, is there anything about provision that they were trying to get them in long-term housing here? It seems like to me
Well,
that just.
the ordinance only speaks to shelters. Most of the shelters, when you're in them, offer you an option and program options where you is in a one night situation. There are a couple that are like that. But most of them stay there, that they have service providers or service available in trying to get you to them, and if you're willing to do that, they will give you an extended stay. Somewhat, and again, they all have different rules and go on. That, but there is not anything in the ordinance specifically that if you were
Frequent flyer.
you know, being able to do that. I think that is more in the purview of the municipal court. About how to aggressively deal with the frequent offenders, be able to go and do that. And I guess that I would just say that human nature being what it was, if you're someone that you doesn't really want to change, you just like that lifestyle, you may just decide I'm going to follow that lifestyle rather than make it, because I don't want to have those conversations with the police and dealing with shelters or going out within the quality jail. To be able to do that. Well, you know, well, there's going to need to be some assessment after we've been working with this to see is it impactful in the way that we're hoping it's impactful, both in terms of helping community do that, but also in terms of individuals being motivated and getting connected with things that help them resolve their personal situation.
Is there going to be any, as this is waiting for it to become enacted, any outreach to let the existing encampments kind of warn them that this is on the way? Maybe incentivize them to start moving.
I don't know that we've got that specifically, you know, to be really honest, I defer that question to the chief, because the implement the ordinances both gives him the authority to develop the policies and procedures to be able to go and do that. And until those are known, then what's the message that you want to be given, you know, to be able to go and do that? That what it has been done is that the ordinances themselves, the content of them have been provided to a lot of the agencies that provide services to persons experiencing homelessness or those that are, struggling with the drug use issue. But there's not a lot of outreach that says exactly specifically how it's going to work because that wasn't really the role for you in place.
I look at this definition of what a public entity is, it doesn't seem to include federal. Because it's all kind of terminology, nothing federal. Now I drive by, but I think it's obviously encampments on Hosmer and 84th and 72nd, and it's doing all kinds of terrible things. But the one that really gets me is I took a post office box as you can lake with the post office because I get into the county office late and 24-hour lobby for box was my dependable thing. And there were so many people moving in there, they were taking tickets. Sometimes I went in and I felt overwhelmed by all the eyes that were blinking at me and they were fighting for the two electrical sockets they could charge their 3 cell phones on. And the post office response for at least a while was they shut down after 8 p.m. all access to 24-hour boxes, so they aren't 24-hour anymore. Then they added Saturday or Sunday 0 hours. And they posted a sign for that inside the door of the box and you couldn't see it. But I don't know what it is now, but this doesn't seem to include anything federal.
Well, it not only does not seem to, it does not imply to any federal property because it's relying upon some state statutes that relate to public property and you see that for the laundry list of all different kinds of state organizations that like property, and there's a lot more of that in Lakewood than there are, that there are the post office is one. There are a number of other federal agencies that police, right, land to be able to go and do that. But I would say that we can be relying upon some state statutes to work with made how broadly we can make it absolutely in the extended part of being able to make it applicable to the federal.
So if I object, I can direct all that to feds. Nothing used to rely on the city. That's okay, I mean, it's fine.
Well, we'll see. I mean, you better be careful that you know where the property lines are before you step over into a school zone or something like that, and then we'll have it.
Well, you don't have me because I'm not a baby. But yeah, we were sometimes if more than one person accumulated the door trying to figure out what's worth it, dart in. We would make an ad hoc agreement that we go in at least in a group of 2 or 3. It was getting ridiculous. So if I can ask this housing that Lakewood contributed to, which I objected to, big deal, so nobody cares. But I just heard a report for 3 days that King County and Seattle, they're asking for billions of dollars to correct the homeless problem that they've been working on for 10 years. The state wants 60 billion, and it's only gotten worse. How are the Houses Institute and Housing LLC over on Hosmer doing it? Highly occupied, so occupied,
It has a high percentage of occupancy, ways to do that. It also has some turnover, and some of the turnover is based on people getting stabilized and then being able to move into some sort of regular sort of housing. Additionally, that facility with the forum itself, that has been undergoing some remodeling with the series of rooms that have been going on, so that it's going to become more of a long-term supportive housing model that we have. So the city knew that for 2 years it was going to be more of a shelter type thing and then after that. Transfer into a more of a permanent supported housing model. For the lower income housing is pretty high. That's in their model of their, most of their work has been up in King County, but they have projects in Palma and well, and here, and they're actually in the process of handling the streets on specific highway. They have made arrangements to be able to buy that, so that they want to convert that into a place that is going to provide housing and shelter for folks who are experiencing homelessness to be able to go and do that. Or they really become more than often. And the city is assisting the access support line, lots of with raising some funds to the state to increase their footprint by a number of units where they are on a ground spot to be able to go and do that. And again, both of those are with the idea of getting people, giving them for a significant period of time to be able to stabilize them and moving into along the pathway to stabilize housing to be able to go and do that. Qualifying for by housing vouchers and making the various housing authorities go and do that. It's really, the hardest part about the homeless people are the chronic homeless folks who have sort of accepted that they've been on the street. And they're not really making a lot of personal effort to change that. And they decided that, oh, if that's what it is, and they're okay with it. But all the empathy that could have, and the concerns about being there and the unease that they cause to other folks. But the population experiencing homelessness is much more dynamic than that. There's a lot of folks that they're sort of living from paycheck to paycheck, and one paycheck is either wasn't there, or they weren't able to do that, or where they're living, the rent change is something to do that. They fall into the homeless category, and maybe there's a car or something to be able to go and use. But the majority of those folks actually move from having slipped into being homeless to resolving it and establishing themselves somewhere else. And Lakewood is, we're actually often the recipient of some of those folks because we have significant amount of low rental housing stock. So that there are people that are open perhaps responding from but they have to deal with the economic realities of finding a place, and then there are more rental properties in Lakewood that are not as plentiful in other parts of the country. And Lakewood shares that pattern with Park. The Parkland is and that goes back to there's a lot of things that are 40 to 50-year-old rental properties.
Thank you. Any more questions?
Moving to Assistant Chief Adams.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Let's see, significant calls, since we met last, we just, week and a half ago, we had a wildfire over at Maple Creek Retirement. It's kind of one of those high hazard, properties where, you know, we have a place like that with a lot of people that don't move around very easily and limited staff, so big concern. We still were able to get people out. Being a wildfire wasn't a huge issue, but like I said, people moving slow and lots of smoke and trying to get the environment so that they can get back in. We were thankful there were no injuries. The issue was that someone had some of their things too close to a heater. So we always tell kids in the elementary schools, keep your stuff 3 feet away from the heaters, right? So let's see, pop quiz. Does the fire department respond to a cat in the tree? Generally, no. On the other side of that, do we respond to individuals stuck in a tree trying to rescue a cat? The answer is yes, we respond to those. So this individual, we had 2 weeks ago, ended up getting up a tree. They had a harness, so that was good, and it was a gal, and she was doing a great job. She got all the way up about 30 feet, got a hold of the cat, and got stuck. And so none of our ground ladders get up there very easy, so we had to go ladder truck there and help her out. Do a change of direction and loosen her up and get her out. So that was a good thing. That was one of those cat stories. You never see a cat that gets stuck in a tree and isn't able to get down. Just find a way.
Have you recorded that on YouTube?
Right, don't call. These are the things you call 911 for.
I will comment real quick. You guys did come out when we had a cat stuck in our tree, a number of years back. You didn't do anything about it. Other than to remind us that you never see cat skeletons in trees. And the next day, we were looking at trying to get up there ourselves and we heard the cat meowing behind us. So.
Yeah. Over like a can of tuna fish, right underneath the tree.
But I appreciate Western's coming out. I think it was a slow day.
Yeah.
That's why I came out and see what was going on.
Good result. We did recognize a citizen for a life-saving award. It's been several weeks now. Earlier this year, there was a rollover accident on Bridgeport in 75th, and there was a car on its side. Someone was driving by, he had being an emergency from doctor. But he saw it had just happened, and the person had been kind of partially ejected. But the car was actually had the person pinned that underneath it. So what he did is he stabilized the car and was able to kind of help stabilize the person from trying to move or get away from the car that was kind of rocking back and forth. So definitely one of those things where you read about people kind of going that extra mile. Should be very, very careful in those situations. So good to do that. So we recognize them for that. A new program our prevention division is doing. We used to do a mock DUI at the end of the year for local seniors for lakes. And instead of doing that mock DUI, we've modified that a little bit. We found a curriculum that's certifies kids in a distracted driving program. And we did 4 classrooms over at Lakes High School, and it was well received by kids and also the staff over there. So hopefully going to move that to Clover Park. It's a little bit shorter and allows for a little bit more kind of interaction with the kids rather than having to sit on some bleachers and watch firefighters kind of dangerous work on the road. So that's been good. Let's see, we graduated 14 people from our CERT program a couple weeks ago. We still have smoke alarms. If you know of anybody in the community that needs their smoke alarms checked or needs just new ones because they're too old, we will come and install those for free. going back to a couple of fatalities that we had earlier this year in Lakewood. The 2 apartments did not have working smoke alarms. So again, it's kind of one of those things where you're like, would working smoke alarms have made a big difference? And we believe it would have. Just having neighbors hear that would alert people instead of calling 911, hopefully get that help a little bit sooner. So. Let's see, a year ago, we hired a former nurse, who does case management. Her name is Karen Gilbert. She, is head of our Connected Cares position. And you might remember that, we hired her to help us with frequent users of 911. And so, since she started, it was April 1st last year, we've connected her with 260 families or frequent users of 911. And since we've tracked those families, we've been able to cut those calls down by over half. So that's a good thing. I mean, not that you would hire 10 people to do more work to bring those calls down, but there's certainly a group of individuals that just don't seem to know who to call for resources. And so that's what this person does, is they will try to work with families, try to connect them with programs that the city has, that the community has, the county has, and try to get them to utilize those if it's appropriate, instead of calling them. Social media, every month we do a preparedness message. This month it's focusing on water storage. In case you didn't know, you should try to have a gallon of water per person per day. So if you go to our website or on Twitter, if you follow us on there, we have information. You can print out a sheet and give it to your family. You can go to our website and you can access previous months as well. Let's see, our annual report should be available this week. I think it's on there now on our website, so westpierce.org, you can access our annual report. And let's see, new hires. We hired a new emergency management coordinator, Nathan Johnson. He comes to us from Yakima. He originally used to live in Pierce County in Tacoma, and so he's actually coming home. So we're super excited to work for the coalition and City of Lakewood and University. So happy to have him. And a request, Fire Chief Jim Sharp would like to see if it's possible, instead of me giving a regular report at our next meeting in June, if he could spend a few moments to show you some slides about and just kind of get you updated on the state of the fire department, where we're at, what's going on, and what we're looking to see in the future. So something that we could do for him.
Yes.
Okay. And then the last thing, I talked to a couple people last time, next to Chief Smith. There's the file of life there. If you're interested and you want to give it to friends or family, it's just kind of something that we give to people. You can put your medical information or contact information in a small little folder. And you can put it on your refrigerator or have it visible somewhere in your home. That's something that we look for.
Is there a time frame as far as like a gallon of water per person per day? I know I could probably do that, but for how long?
So if you buy it like from Walmart, you can have it up to a year or 2 years because it's not open tap water. If it's tap water, if you take an open jug and you seal it up, they want you to try to rotate it every 6 months. So,
And then how, like they say you should have it in stock at your house, but like for how long should you plan for, you know, the
3 days or.
3 days?
they said 3 days, and then they've even modified stuff. Yeah, 3 to 5 days, but it says up to 2 weeks.
Okay.
I know, and then you got a family of 4, you're like 2 weeks, a gallon per person per day. And then pets kind of get figured into that a little bit too. And some people do more cooking with water, and so if you don't, then okay, you can have a little bit less water, but the printout kind of walks you through a few things. Those like Jurassic, people forget about pets, you know, we're just thinking about ourselves and brushing teeth and stuff.
And then is it ever shared, like how many, I know you share like the highlights or the biggest calls, but is it ever shared with how many calls you get in a month? Look at some of these.
If you go to, if you use Twitter, I mean, we put that out one. And what it does is that there's a dashboard there that talks about the calls, the number of calls that we've gone on. I'll have to double check and see if you can click on it, because it gets kind of granular and talks about University Place, Lakewood, the different areas in Lakewood. We have that information, but we don't always push all of that out to the public. Like, what are all these different colors? And what's page 22 versus 23? It's more or less kind of a cumulative. This past month, we went on a little over 1,300 calls in our area, and usually Lakewood's about 2/3 of that. So,
Is there anywhere else outside of Twitter that you'd be able to find that information?
you can download some other information off our website, westpierce.org, and then just another little plug. Once you sign into our website for the first time, it'll shoot a little blurb at you and say, if you'd like to get on a mailing list and know about when there's hiring or preparedness messages or when we push information out. So.
Any questions for the you guys? Thanks, sir. And I'd like to welcome our new police chief, Patrick Smith. Hey, good evening. I don't think I've met. Oh, it's not pertinent. We shook hands twice. Meet and greets. Yes, we talked about the LA Academy. Right. And right back here. Yeah. Anyway, my name is Patrick Smith. I'm very thankful to be chief of police here in Lakewood. I'm looking forward to working with everyone and also forming more partnerships within the community. Today, I'll go over the crime report. And I'm going to try to simplify the information that you receive, especially with the crime information in the future, so that some of the charts and graphs that are here primarily focus on what's really important for you to know as a resident, what's going on in the community. So this will be our fourth quarter report. Are you looking for that?
No.
No, okay.
Sorry.
So on the second page, as we flip in, it goes over everything, and I don't want to bore you because I know you probably looked at it and read it, but it talks about the calls for service, and I'll just kind of go pretty quickly because I know you've probably taken a look at it, and also the crime summary by the various crimes. But I will tell you what you should pay attention to is this page. Where it says City of Lakewood Incident Report. And if you go all the way over to the right-hand side, and it will point out, it says year-to-date city. And on year-to-date city, everything over from the last three columns tells you the year-to-date, the type of crime and the various crimes, and the decrease or increase in crime for the entire year, and how it is reflected by crime within the city. If you want to know specifically about your district, you can go a little bit further back, and I'll show you that for you. Where it breaks it down by district, and I'm very sorry that the PowerPoint is not able to come up. But here it shows you by quarter, and so the way you read that, rather than just looking at the line going across, if you look at the fourth quarter here of 2022, then you go to the fourth quarter of 2021,
the fourth quarter of 2020, so that you're able to do the quarterly comparisons, so that you're looking at it in one solid form and know exactly what you're looking at. And that's broken down in the NIBRS by the various crime, by the reporting district. And so another important part of this document is where you arrive at the various points on the charts here. And the major part is your crime against persons. And what you'll notice is it covers from 2016 over to 2022. And of course, we show an increase right about 2019, where we had some type of incidents going on. But the main thing is we've not shown any significant rise in crime on crimes against persons from 2016, where you had 1564 over to the end of the year, a total of 1568. And so those areas are good. But what I primarily wanted to point out in this is our drivers of crime. The drivers of crime is one of the things that you discussed earlier when the councilman spoke about the pursuit policy. Not long ago, there was a change in the pursuit policy, which kind of hindered the officer's ability to go after criminals. So if you go to this last page where it talks about eludes, and there's one part of the graph where it shoots all the way to the top almost, and it works its way around. This is where we are running into the most problems, because if you look prior to that, all the way over to 2020 even, very rarely did we have anyone who was potentially fleeing from the police department. Then there's a change in the law, and you see the significant increase in our ability to pursue and apprehend criminals, even in a stolen vehicle. The most telling for us was the incident where we had a vehicle, a truck that pulled up, broke into the window of the business, hooked up the ATM machine, and they're driving away with it, and our officers do not pursue it. So you have essentially a crime in progress, suspects leaving the scene, and they're not pursuing or bringing this person into custody. And so from my many years of experience, I'll tell you that one of the problems that we're doing is we're almost breeding the super criminal, the ones who know just how much to do, just what they need to do to get away, and the ones that will essentially leave from the department. On the last page of this, it shows the number of eludes that have occurred during this time frame, and that's the top number at going across here, and the number of incidences that the officers have encountered during the time as we have tried to take people into custody. The line at the bottom will tell you the number of arrests, and you'll see that there's a big gap in between. And so there are certain things that I plan to introduce to the department that will help us to hone in on this problem, as well as our stolen vehicle problem. The stolen vehicle issue came up not long ago. There are YouTube videos on how you can go steal a Hyundai or a Kia if you're interested. And here it also shows the uptick in crime. So First, if I'm a criminal, certainly I'm not going to be walking around to perform any type of crime. Usually there's a getaway car somewhere. And so if a crime is committed, we're not able to go after this individual, we're not able to take them into custody, and what are they going to do? They're going to ultimately become repeat offenders and start a perpetual process of committing crimes that's been done so that they can get away. And as I mentioned, there are several things that I am looking at as chief of police to curtail the activity. I don't want to get into it because a lot of it requires approvals, contracts, and things of that nature. But primarily, I would like to help the entire region deal with the crime situation, the stolen vehicle problem, and also curtail it certainly here in the city of Lincoln. And so I'll take any questions, but I can tell you now, if you start talking about streets, corners, sidewalks, and those things, I'm 30 days in, I'm still doing an analysis of the department to make sure that you, as your citizens, are getting the best service possible for, that we can possibly provide at the time.
Welcome. I'm glad to be here.
Well, thank you so much. Thank you. Yes, sir.
The predecessor, Chief Starr, when I talked about this many times, about community policing and the role of the community service officers. And that program, very active program we had going, really died with budgetary, over budgetary. What is your view of that?
So that was one of the very first conversations that I had with the city manager in terms of the budgeting for the department, because I think that it's one of the more critical programs that you could possibly have as a city, and you have to have your CSOs in place. And one, they can do follow-up that the officers don't have the time to do. Two, it creates a contact person for the various parts of the community and the different districts. And three, sometimes there are certain segments of the population that you prefer to talk to someone that's not in uniform like that. They just want someone to listen, that will follow up on certain things in the community, that will create a project. But on the other side of that, the 311 system here seems to work fairly well. But for a police department, if you're really going to put on the hat of community-based policing and allow that to be a part of your principles and your guiding force, then it's very important that we provide that particular part of the program.
And was the city manager amenable to
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's not, here's the thing. There will always be times, just like your own budget in your household. There will always be times that you have to make cuts, and there are times that you can add certain things back. And so any city, if they're being fiscally wide, there are times they have to make cuts, and they recognize the importance of certain things, and then they'll bring it back when they possibly can fiscally do so. So I understand the long-term goal.
I have one question.
Yes, sir.
The meeting, which is confirmed, brought up, and
Yes.
ever since those policies changed. On this second to the last page of chart, there's a gray and black line, and both lines are low until you policy change. And Chief Darrow said the statement, numbers, and I'm asked a lot about what goes on between these low numbers down here, where we got ones, twos, and a couple of sixes. Isn't that the number of Lakewood pursuits that even occurred before we decided not to? So this is the great speaking evidence about who's running now that they know. When it wasn't a problem before.
It was never a problem before, and I looked pretty deep into this, and the policies that were in place were sufficient. There were checks and balances to make sure that supervisors were stopping pursuits that were one, not worth it, two, that were, they felt that the speed, et cetera, was dangerous for others, or if we didn't have the appropriate probable cause in place to do so. So the checks and balances were there. What happened was we created a solution for a problem that did not exist in the city.
And is there any study or staff that shows us the damage of the policy?
Well, you can turn to the pages before this to see the crime trends, and the problems that it has created. And so, I think probably to me, the most telling is with your property crime, you have the same spike at about the same time. And all of your other crimes, you'll see the same spike at pretty much the same time frame in the process of getting.
So for now, we just remain mystified why it's not clear.
I come in peace. I stay in my lane, police in my lane, and whatever the policies are, we just have to learn to adapt, overcome, and create new measures of prevention.
You know, the issue is that there are well over 150 policymakers in Olympia that are dealing with that. You would probably move and solve a lot of things if everybody had the same goal. But different groups of policy, it's like that. Some people support the statistics to tell them that one thing is the problem, other people support the statistics to say there's something else that's the problem. Yeah, I don't know do that. None of the policymakers get in a car, you know, are expected by the public to take down and stop. Not very criminal. Going to do that. So there is, like I said, it is not that it is a problem that has been recognized by policymakers. The problem is that they haven't been able to distill in their conversation around the solution. And the things run to say, if we look at this and say, obviously, something got worse when you made that policy. And there are others that say the policy hasn't been in place long enough to really make that decision, because the COVID stuff was all going on at the same time, and we could say what was the problem, yeah, we're going to do it. So, you know, I think that there is going to be best I can describe is there are going to be some tweaks coming out of the legislature this time. I don't think that they will be result in comprehensive solutions. But you know, we'll do that, and we'll to the extent that some of these things are laws, you know, we'll comply with them. But we'll keep data so that in 2 years from now, when there's a new legislative group, we can make the best case that we have. I would say that Lakewood is one of the few agencies in the state that actually kept good data around. Many police departments in the state couldn't tell you if they had to make this thing charge But they look like that they just. It didn't keep it, and that is one of the problems that on the political side, talking about political, public safety. That other people don't see the problem because they just haven't kept the data. To be able to go and do that, and they haven't asked their public safety folks to keep the data either. So, the keeping data is important. I think that the Lakewood Police Department, in the city does a much better job than most jurisdictions at tracking things with the idea that we see data, we'll see solutions. You have to get people though to see the same thing you're seeing when you look at it. When I was in college and I took classes in statistics, one of the basic rules of the instruction said is that if the statistics don't tell you what you want to hear, torture them more.
Since Councilman Grant said I opened that door, I used to do a lot of medical research. And after I finished the presentation back in Boston, I went to hear this world leader who come up with this big cancer outcome. And he started out by saying right now that the fatality rate's 10 to 15%. Here's what our research resulted in: 1/3 of the animals used got better, 1/3 stayed the same, 1/3 got worse. Well, that's twice the rate they went in on. So the question from the audience was, if you do further experiments, what are you going to do? Because we're going to use more than 3 mice. You have to know where the statistics came and validate them. You can fish in a pond and only get 1 fish, it's all catfish anyway. So I see a lot of statistics to brutal in this year.
Last week, there was a big, drug ring takedown. As long as I was right for success, and I was wondering what's, involvement with the Orion family, what is it? The Orion prison gang, the drug ring that was taken down last week, did Lakewood play a part in that?
I don't believe so. I think we. I don't want to answer that.
I know I can say.
Because here's the thing, we have so many different task force and officers work on various parts of that. And so, I don't believe so.
I know Stella doesn't have their own police department, so I know that they partner directly with like the city with one thinking back here.
So they do.
Oh.
They,
Oh,
yeah.
yeah, yeah, very, very good.
yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So we work with them and, but they do have. Fine.
Okay.
Thank you, Chief. Any other questions for Chief? Thank you again, and welcome. Thank you. And still no youth council membership?
So you lit a fire. I received an email apologizing for nobody showing up and assuring me that somebody would be here. I said, thank you. We look forward to seeing you. I sent a reminder to them as well. Here we are.
I tried to get someone to. The folks that had said that they would do that. But I will tell you that the reality is the current youth council is, sunset at the end of the school year, which is going to be in just about the time of your next meeting. So that I'm planning to ask the coordinator of the youth council who works with them to look at the youth council generally has folks that stay for 2 or 3 years. and for what could be for June and for August, whether or not there is a continuing youth council member who's going to be in the community for the summer that would want to take on this role to be able to go and do that rather than waiting for them to reset in September. Maybe possibly so new work. But this year has been different than in past years. In past years, we have had consistent youth council input to this group, but I really don't know what the issue was this year. But there were some people who put their names on the piece of paper. But then I'll do what I can to try to do that, but I think we're really focused on making sure that we get someone with a firm commitment to work for us next year. Next year being beginning in October.
Unfinished business is our neighborhood association roadmap. In last meeting, you spoke, we were, the city council was looking to get a community outreach, or community liaison that might be taking on the role. Kind of re-engaging the neighborhood association.
That and city council did fund that position in the budget, but person has not been hired yet. And there's anything going on there. I think one of the number of positions that are in the budget that we haven't been able to hire yet, to be able to do that with someone who's going to do the work yet. We've not been, and maybe the constantly design the neighborhood association to where really are our neighborhoods as opposed to our police district, because we essentially have police district associations going back 20 years. Called the neighborhood associations, but there are really only two that are now meeting monthly, because that started up to meet monthly, and Lake City is consistently been doing that. The North Lakewood Association is on a not as frequent schedule and going through some leadership rotation.
They now have a president step in and meeting every other month, and they're going to be meeting our Oakbrook council club. What's the name? Whatever their restaurant is out there. And the next meeting's on the 19th.
Yeah, and
We're kind of getting organized there.
and in the framework connection to also working to get themselves organized. They're settled, but they're going to be able to actually meet and have a presence, and they have to be do multiple events in the current center court building. Where they receive some grants that are going to allow them to actually get long-term lease for space on that building to be able to not only just hold meetings, but actually we can push around. Other neighborhoods are just sort of individuals who concern raising the individual.
Any other comments on the neighborhood association? Questions? Thank you.
I think we should keep that under, continue to keep it under independent business.
Okay. Follow up. The other item on our unfinished business was the business public safety survey. Someone correct me if I'm wrong. What the council had asked us to do, if we do the community assessment that comes out every other year.
Every 2 or 3 years.
2 or 3 years.
We did a community assessment, and it didn't particularly and that. And the mayor and the council was asking you, going back now a while, to say, could you come up with a way that maybe survey businesses for their view of public safety and public safety needs and priorities to be able to go and do that. And to be really honest, it was sort of been put on the back burner until they used to it perhaps worth of the death in terms of what he really likes to know before we spend a lot of money spending and going out to the business community with asking them questions and survey sort of thing. And the previous chief thought that he didn't want to take on and provide that guidance because he thought that the next chief could get the perspective he wanted. So the council would still like you to do that. The council is not got a calendar with a red circle by the time they want to complete it, so just they can do it in a way that's meaningful information.
So we've done some preliminary work, got some templates put together, on a subcommittee. We'd love to sit down and have some time with you, to kind of review what you, to come from the thing, your thoughts working forward, we drag this thing forward. Okay. I guess work with Joanna to try and get something on the chief schedule. It's been a while, someone, Karen, if you remember who we had on that subcommittee?
Well, Mark did the work.
Right. He did the lion's share.
I wasn't on the committee.
Well, and work,
Yeah, we put the questionnaire together.
and what, there was.
So you get to blame me.
Yeah. Alan and me and Martin and Mark.
We'll see if we can't permit some schedules and some time to meet with the chief, and hopefully next meeting we'll have some, keep that on the agenda. And hopefully we'll come to. Last one, this was gonna be our big one. We kind of put it off last meeting, but we've got some of that coming up. We really didn't have, there was some concerns on doing the dump tank again, the amount of effort that went in from Ray, Mark, putting this together in the amount of participation and just the effort. So there was some discussion on what we wanted to do, if we wanted to do anything this year to some of that.
I still think the way to do it is to come up with some kind of a series of skill things that kids can do, and when they complete, we give them something in the fire department, sticker for the fire department, and maybe a sticker for the police department, or something, that when they complete it, either way go, something simple, writing balloons, whatever, something that's interesting. Rather than dump tank. And it doesn't involve having to schedule young people that man the dump tank.
I think that sounds like a great idea. Any other thoughts? Ideas on the tasks?
I was just thinking back to the last conversation that was also that we needed some time to have the thoughts for us to focus away from some of that and think on construction factors as already public safety vehicles. Might be something along the line of Mark today that we could do that day, that on a day that is much more useful than summer that multiple populations of folks. There's an awful lot of stuff going on. Probably back to 30 something folks So if you give it and give it that we have. And August meeting.
We're running out
Oh,
of
that's
time.
an idea before the fucking time today. Maybe we can do it. Probably.
So what are the thoughts of pushing our event to the trucking factor versus? Summertime?
Well, it seems like truck and tractor day is more specifically Lakewood. And I think that's what we lost in our housing vendors and activities and.
Then we can locate in the area to keep it, the public safety theme. We wouldn't be fighting for space, but we would with some.
Yes. Asthmatic, yeah.
Is there a motion to move our event to Back Truck and Tractor Day for the summer fest?
So we'll like some second.
All those in favor? Okay. Then maybe our next meeting, we can look at, try to narrow down the specific what our tasks are, so we can start getting ahead of it, we're not behind on the plan. Would this be something we would do with a group thing, or would it be a subcommittee to work with, how do we kind of refine who's doing what we're going to do?
What day?
Yeah, it's October. 20th. While we're talking about Summerfest, I have to. Summerfest was phenomenal last year. The one portion that didn't come off so well was the one section I was involved with, the car show. And then the last month here, I sent an email off and said, I suggest you make some changes next year. Maybe contacting people that participated, because one that wasn't operating very well. The trophies they gave out and the categories that they gave trophies out in were just strange. Everybody was just going, what? And so I got a reply quickly back, and they have hired outfit that's what they do is put on car shows and organize them. And so this next year, and they're already signing up, and went on the website and registered, and I'm ready to go for this year. So, which is better than what they did last year. It was kind of, you know, so I know that the city hears what you're saying, and they're working on it. Even if we don't get it done for tractor this year, if we can at least get it going, so we know what we're doing for next year, that'd be great.
Agreed. If there's ever a thought of like a Summerfest, unofficially, we always try to reach out to fire, police, CERT, because we always kind of co-located when we pull it off. And I think it was a good idea about mentioning other activities. And sometimes the fire department has some of that going on, and police, sometimes police have that driving challenge where you put on the glasses, you can see good. But maybe if you ever go back to that day, integrate all those, have a little powwow early and consider what everybody's doing to try to feed off.
Yeah, we're getting a little late to try to pull something off like that.
No, I agree.
Back to the other question, which was, should you tackle it as a group, as a subcommittee, typically subcommittee feeds the group and then we all participate, right? That would be my understanding, yes, it's suggested, so. Just gotta pick someone like Woody to run this subcommittee. I'm,
No parents would.
I thought, and I'm thinking I'm gonna be in Maryland then, but I guess I can do it.
anybody else that would love to help, right?
But without the other folks participating, you recall, my complaint was the last few years, people voted for it. But they just sent in their greetings from wherever they were that day and got in under the screen view. Trying to hustle all of it. Chiefs of police trying to twist the arms of folks who wanted to sit on the saddle and get wet.
Sorry, can I ask for clarification? So are you guys doing a subcommittee to attempt to do something for this year's or for next year's?
Would be for truck and tractor this year.
This year, no problem.
So,
Okay.
Or to make the recommendation. We did not.
There's somebody coordinate this. I've never been to one. Who coordinates track and track?
It is coordinated by the park. Martinez is the person. In the same way that she is for summer.
I know Doug Richardson, when he was mayor, he'd be drunk for that. The day after he stopped, he would be the next year.
What's the new hire, she was here, or I think her last meeting, her name, that's the public, yeah, she, I think she called me. Is there a number we need on the subcommittee? Less than four.
less than a quarter. Okay.
Here's a, like, where you're, we can't have over four.
I just, yeah, with somebody. And if so, Mark is also. So you're gonna help out?
Number one.
Okay, yeah.
Said to roll into.
They didn't put me into this. I didn't see a whole lot of your action.
Ray and Mark.
Anybody else?
Did you get it there?
Okay, thank you.
If we can email them out.
I was nominated.
You find some ideas, I have a thing.
No, you just want the idea. Cool.
We just need to read
Before we move on from unfinished business, we kind of would like to make a motion that we put Clover Creek Crossing under unfinished business to carry it on. And we used to also carry it on the calendar, but maybe under unfinished business would be better. So that it doesn't get forgotten when some of us leave.
It was agreed to take it off. That's why it's off. Is that?
Oh, we did?
Yes, you were assured, city council was handling it. You were assured that it was being handled, so we took it off. Because there wasn't anything else we could do. Now with this update, hearing that it's
Oh, I forgot
still in the
that.
works, if you guys want to put it back on, but I just didn't want you to be put off. It was agreed to take it off. So, just so that,
I must have been out of town.
so that was a motion to put it back on.
I withdraw my motion, yes, I don't know. What did they do? I guess I withdraw. I'll have to trust Mike even though I don't.
It sounds like my trouble. We don't scare him up with it.
Well, I think you guys are, I don't know if it has to go on, but that's for you to decide. I don't know if it needs to go on the agenda, but you were definitely aware and you do keep that in. So maybe not on the current plan, but something else.
Can we put it on the calendar for next? I know I'm not familiar with the Clover Creek. Any of the information, so maybe just an update on the information on what we're actually discussing.
Something else we probably should have done, we had a lady that came in and brought it up, we'd already talked about it. But it's been a couple of years, 3 years. I wonder if we should notify her somehow to say, hey, we haven't forgotten about this, it's still in the works in the city and that they're aware and welcome. I don't remember her name, but she came in with a file and she was.
Is that a situation where you can invite someone from Sound Transit to come in and speak to us on our property?
South Transit, South Transit wouldn't come to us.
I was gonna say,
We tried to go everything.
The problem is too many communities are involved with that. The State Department of Highway, Sound Transit, city of Lakewood, who else is involved with that is.
Amtrak on the line as well.
Yes, and so,
Yeah,
yeah, and so nobody wants to get on first base, no.
I know that intersection. There well, my.
Non-transit is one in my.
Yeah.
And that's, they have some control about their timeline. That, city and non-transit are together on design. The way it should be. But it's, I will see who for the next meeting and how we can see whether we can get it out. And for.
That's the cost.
That's the person. And there's no way for. Anybody to, in wheelchair, you can get it fostered, or if you're pushing getting a stroller. Without getting on the street.
Any more unfinished business?
Any questions, comments?
Forget some new business. Preview of next meeting. What if I was to vote for company? Does it just talking about the date?
Oh, that's, just making sure that we know what we're doing for next meeting. Just, which. Somebody else, so, I don't know what it's on our plan for next meeting.
Based on the public citizen survey and some of that is on for 6-7.
Thank you.
We just scratched some of that, that should go to track with.
Yeah, that's just making sure that we know what we're doing, and I don't have a speaker for either of those, but you were gonna try to get a speaker from San Antonio. Okay. Okay.
And the legislative session will be over, but if there's any meaningful public safety things that come out of the state legislature this year. Rest of that and see if that's.
And also Chief Charles. What's going on?
Yes. That's right. Maybe not going to it, but I'm writing it down.
Thank you. That section. Only broken up.
It's just so that if you guys have something specific, it's a way for me to write it down what you need me to do.
All right, so a report from our board members and staff on our neighborhood association. Mark? What? Neighborhood
Well,
association?
neighborhood association, now you got me, I finally dealt with that. April 19th, we're gonna meet at the Adriatic, and what that's called, court. 5 to 6 is gonna be a social hour, 6 to 7:30 is gonna be a meeting, so they expanded it, and they officially are having a social hour now, which is probably good.
You said that's 19.
The 19th,
What time?
5 to 6 is social, and meeting starts at 6 to 7:30. Mary Dotson from Lakewood Parks and Rec's gonna be there, Ken Wilkie, you know him. Partners for Parks and H Barn Restoration Project, and Merrill Williams gonna be there this week. That's all I know.
That was
And
April.
Todd Freeman's the new president.
That was April. That was April 19th.
Yes.
Okay.
Do we have any other updates? You're still sending policy ordinance changes. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Before you do that,
Okay.
I try at least annually to express gratitude possibly for all of us. For all the work Joanna does behind the scenes. She melds all of our mango things together and interprets and fronts us, so I appreciate it.
You are appreciated. Thank you. And a second? All those in favor? We are adjourned. Thank you, everybody.